thanks for joining me. I'm out here on the California today, and I'm with my fishing partner, Coach Ted.
Start over.
What?
You're just out here on the California today.
I didn't say California Delta?
No. It was cute, but...
All right. You gonna let me start now, Ted?
Yeah, I'm gonna let you.
Okay. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. We're out here on the California Delta. I'm with my partner, Ted, Coach Ted, to you guys. We were out this morning. We've been out for the last few days, Ted, and you know, it's summer out here and the fishing is generally pretty darn good. We've had some pretty good days. There are times when the fishing gets tough, and we've hit those times. We've worked through the tough times. On the right tides, we're doing well, but when those tides slip down, when we've got situations where there's no water movement, it gets tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's the deal, guys. I was out with Ted the other day and we were having a pretty good day. We lost our tide, fishing got tough, and you pulled out one of these cube baits. I don't know what they call them. I had a couple of them a couple years ago. They're from Japan. I think they're called cube baits.
They're OSP Sakuro cubes. That's the original manufacturer, I think, yeah.
So here's the bottom line. I pulled those things out and I used them a little bit. I didn't really have a whole lot of action on them, but you were telling me you're making your own, and I looked at yours and you've been having luck when the fishing gets tough.
Yeah.
And you said you'd be willing to show everybody how you're making these, talk a little bit about them. And I also want to, once we look at that, and we'll show you guys exactly how Ted's making these cube baits out of 7-inch Senkos. Is that what
7-inch Senkos, yeah.
What I want to do today, guys, is give you guys, have Ted give you guys a few ideas of what you can do for some kind of, we're going to call these oddball baits, and I'll let Ted do most of the talking because he's the guy that's had most of the luck.
So if you know anything about cube baits, they're a highly salt impregnated square that have essentially tentacles coming out of them.
Yeah.
And they were originally developed in Japan on highly pressured waters for the fish to see something they haven't seen before. And they're supposed to mimic small insect larvae, you know, just other small aquatic marine animals. And being the type of guys that we are, there's no way I'm gonna pay $5 per bait for a rubber bait to have it torn off after a fish or two. It's just not gonna happen. So, I mean, I know it's a heavily salt impregnated piece of rubber, so I thought, you know, what do we have in our arsenal that's already a heavily salt impregnated piece of plastic that falls quickly? And that's the Senko. I mean, we all fish them. I am a huge fan of big Senkos. You know me, I fish 7-inch Senkos in February and March for big fish. So I came home, decided to design them myself and give them a try. And so this is exactly what I've come up with. I can take a 7-inch Senko and cut it into, you know, 5 or 6 1.5-inch pieces.
Yeah. Well, I see this bag you have here.
Yeah.
I just want to show you, show these guys. Ted's got them all cut up here. Let me just kind of get those right in there so you can see them. He's just cut up a 7-inch Senko, green pumpkin. You got a black.
I got black. I do black ones. I do 3 colors. I do green pumpkin, I do black and blue, and I do purple.
And you've got a bag here, probably about 20 of them. So you're
that's half a bag.
Half a bag.
That's half a bag. So you can get somewhere between 30 and 40 of these out of a bag of 7-inch Senkos, depending on how you cut them. And then what I do is I just buy, you know, skirting material from you know, any fishing supply store, and a upholstery needle set from Amazon, which is $5, right? So it's just a needle with a big eye, and because it's a salt impregnated bait, they're pretty hardy. And I just end up taking these things and, you know, passing them right through the eye and taking a piece of Senko, and I run on average for each Senko 5 or 6 pieces, and you just pull them to even them up, 5 or 6 pieces per Senko, which gives you 10 to 12 tentacles off of each bait. And I fish that on a drop shot rig. So I hook through with my hook, so I hook from the outside in so that my hook point comes to the tip, and that sits in your drop shot like that. And those tentacles give you great secondary action. And lo and behold, I started fishing these about a year ago when things got tough in August. and started catching fish.
And you got a couple bites on those today too.
Yeah, and yesterday when it was really tough, it was hot, no air movement, and we've had a lot of fishing here on the Delta. You know, I was fishing outside weed lines at low tide, and I was picking up fish.
Just on a drop shot? And
just on a drop shot.
Them? Just
very little movement on a drop shot because you have all this secondary action. So I just pitch them to my target, let them sink, and I literally let them get a good sit for, you know, 20, 30 seconds before I barely rattle them, because I'm letting the secondary action of
and I think
movement.
This is the one you were fishing this morning. You've got the tip of the Senko.
I love the ends of the Senkos best. All right,
and you're just taking the hook right through the tip of it and just hooking it like a worm.
from the outside in and letting that sit. So you know, this is the shape of your hook. That's how it's sitting. So you've got this thing just sitting flush on your drop shot.
Okay.
And as you're working it, just a little movement and getting that secondary action out of these tentacles. You know, I call them, I just joke, I call them a Senkopus, right? Like an octopus little tentacles there. Yeah. And just letting that movement, and they will generate a bite when nothing else will. And for, you know, instead of $5 a bait, you're making these things for about 30 cents a bait, and they work. They're salt impregnated. They're pretty hardy. I can get 4 or 5 fish on each one before they tear them up too much that you have to change them. They're effective.
So for you guys that already have the skirt material, real easy. You got Senkos, cut them up. Take yourself, it doesn't have to be, you know, it could be any kind of needle. You can get the skirt material through the eye and just pull a few of these things through and give it a try. It's not going to cost you anything. Green pumpkin and black, probably your 2 main colors, and give that a try. Now the other thing I want to talk about is some of these poop baits. And you know, you got the depths cover scat. I've got some of my fish arrow, they're called heavy poop. That's a good one. And even the Yamamoto Yamatanukis are kind of this same kind of oddball thing. Now I know a few guys are using these, but like I said, Ted, I got these about a year ago. I started using them last year in the spring, and I was using this heavy poop. No, I know we're going to get some flack on that, but I was using the heavy poop, and I was catching fish, and then all of a sudden, you know, things started going, topwater bites started, and I just kind of forgot about these. And then, you know, as midsummer comes through, it got tough again, and I had just put them down, forgot about them. I started using my Senkos and everything else. But you were saying that you're still using these things, and you're catching fish on them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why I started using them. Very simple. Again, we're, you know, July or August a year or two ago, and let's face it, I mean, summer's busy, a lot of boats on the Delta, a lot of fishing pressure, Wednesday night tournaments every week, 2 or 3 tournaments every weekend. These fish are seeing a lot of stuff thrown at them. It's hot, they're getting buried into the toolies. And you know, I was looking for something to get at fish that you just normally can't get at, right?
And these are 100% weedless.
They are about the most weedless thing you can throw, and they're heavy. They're a salt impregnated bait.
That's like a half ounce.
Yeah, you can throw these things a mile, but I pitch them. So again, you hook the hook through, they come out, and you bury them in the little bump in the top. And you just really have this super weedless, salt impregnated, heavy bait. It's got a quick fall rate. So it's not like, you know, pitching a regular Senko that you're sitting there letting it sink.
And if you have them, some of you guys probably bought them, did like me, you put them in the bottom of your boat and you don't look for them. But these are worth a try. And I found that those where I can get much farther into the toolies with this than a jig or a worm. And once you get it in there, maybe it's 6, 7, 8 feet back. Maybe there's a little, you know, just a spot this big. You get that thing and it punches right through there. You just let it sit in there. And you know, the first thing I was thinking, well, this is an idiot way to fish. And then bam, I get it. And then I was, you know, I was ready to go. But I'm glad that you reminded me about these, because they do have a place in your box.
Well, let me tell you where they excel. You can pitch these things into toolie pockets where no sane person would normally pitch stuff, and I don't even hardly work them. I pitch them into a pocket and just let them sink, and I would say 2/3 of the times you know you have a fish is because your line comes swimming out of the toolie pocket. Then you reel and catch up and you set the hook. It's also exceptional for when you're fishing weedy shelf lines and you want to throw it in and let it sink between weed pockets, because it's so weedless. You can pitch it in and let it float to wherever the heck it wants to float. First week I ever fished this was right down the river here from my house, and I had 2 5-pound fish in the first 2 days on these simple little poop baits, and that made me a believer. And now this is a bait, along with the cube baits, that I pick up when the fishing's heavily pressured, when the bite has been slow, when the fish are really pulled in tight to the toolies, a slack tide, when you want something that's a really subtle presentation. These baits work. There's a reason they're coming out of fishing communities like out of Japan, where they're so heavily pressured and guys are trying to catch fish. They work.
And you know, the other thing that I'm going to do is with these poop baits, I'm going to do the same thing that you're doing with your cube baits. You can take and you could add some skirting material to these and just give them a little collar or a little more animation if you want, and it's something that they don't see. So just a reminder to you guys, it's getting tough out here, you know, in between tides and things on the Delta. Give you guys an idea for using a couple of these poopy little baits that you might catch some fish on.
It's every year this time of year, right? End of summer before the fall bite picks in can be some of the toughest fishing on the Delta, but it's also some of the most rewarding, because like we've really stuck to it the last week, working hard, and we've caught some nice fish because we weren't willing to just say it's tough this time of year, it's time to stop fishing.
These baits are the baits that build a bridge from good strong tide, fish are biting, tide drops out, nothing going. These are a bridge. Come the end of summer, when it gets tight, before the jerk baits and the faster moving baits and the stripers come in, these are a bridge to help you take it from, you know, you're catching fish to no catching fish to you find another pattern to where your standard patterns will. So these are not standard patterns, but they should do very well for you. So Ted, thanks for sharing all that information, and go out and get yourself some poop and get your poop together and go fishing. Thanks a lot. We'll see you guys on the water.